Is Buffalo Bills linebacker Tremaine Edmunds a bust? We're going to be diving into that today on this edition of the Bills Mafia Report. Yo ho ho, Don Mafia. Welcome to yet another edition of the Bills Mafia Report. And yes, you did read that title correctly. In 2017, the exact same year that we drafted Josh Allen, we ended up drafting Tremaine Edmunds out of Virginia Tech, a linebacker who seemed to be an absolute specimen of a player at that particular position. However, a lot of Buffalo Bills fans recently have been unhappy with his play. Now, don't get me wrong, definitely gaining 2 Pro Bowls in a row is certainly impressive. However, a common misconception in that matter is the fact that it has nothing to do with statistics. Hence why we always see Pro Bowls and certain players claiming that they've been snubbed, because it's essentially just a popularity contest with other players across the league. So, realistically, we need to dive into this and see what's going on with Tremaine Edmunds. Is he a bust, or is there an explanation as into why his 2020 season was frankly And we're going to dive into that really heavy. I do just want to give one quick announcement. Smash the ever-living out of that like button. Definitely helps my channel out, and it allows my videos to be put in front of more eyeballs. And we all know that everyone needs their share of football content. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I was struggling for today's topic when it came down to this video, and then I ended up coming across Joe Marino's podcast, Locked On Bills, where he was talking a lot about the Buffalo Bills linebacker room, and then he also started mentioning a lot about Edmunds, right? And then this is what really inspired me to take a bit of a deep dive when it came down into it. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Last year in 2020 was definitely an adjustment for Buffalo Bills fans who are so used to seeing a top 3, top 5 defense. We finished in the middle of the pack on most statistics as a defense as a whole. And particularly our linebacker room didn't really perform well either. And a lot of that has to do with injury. Don't get me wrong. I mean, from what I understand, Leslie Frazier normally alluded to the fact that Edmunds was playing with a terrible shoulder throughout the entire season. And obviously, Matt Milano barely saw the field. I'm pretty sure he only played about 10 games last year. But there's even more to this. When you look back into the 2020 season, specifically within Edmunds' play, there's a lot of explanation as into why I think he hasn't been that effective. I'm going to go ahead and throw his stats up on the board. You're going to see the difference between the past 3 years that he has been in the league. And you'll notice, statistically, you're really not noticing much of a difference between 2019 and 2020. But we still saw a lot of head-scratching moments. And his shoulder injury, which I believe is the number one reason why he wasn't ideal, there's a lot more that goes into it as well. It doesn't take a genius to notice that Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmunds absolutely feed off of each other, especially when they're both on the field at the exact same time. When you look at their statistics on an individual basis, Milano is better when Edmunds is fully healthy and on the field, and Edmunds is definitely better when Milano is fully healthy and on the field. That was a very rare occurrence when it came down into 2020, especially within the interior and in the middle of the field defensively. The last reason why I legitimately believe that Edmunds struggled so tremendously, and it's so funny because we always talk about this guy who's returning, Star Lotulelei. When you look back at our defensive line, with the absence of Star Lotulelei, a true one-tech defensive tackle, most offensive linemen were able to progress into that second level and tie up Edmunds, completely destroying his effectiveness. Now, while Edmunds did well in pass coverage, not so much in being able to stop the run, with that absence of Star Lotulelei not being out on the field and being able to eat up those additional offensive linemen so he can do what he needs to do. At the end of the day, when I look at Edmunds' career in general so far, yes, I think that he's a great linebacker. Do I think that he is like a generational talent? At this point, I don't. I feel like a lot of his play has to do with how the rest of his unit is operating, regardless of who's in those personnel groups. Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, they came from Carolina, and I mean, they love linebackers. Like, as Joe Marino said during his podcast, he believes that McDermott and Beane are probably one of the few professionals in the NFL that still put so much weight on the linebacker position. A lot of teams really don't care about it at this point. When you compare Milano and Edmunds to back when McDermott was in Carolina and he had Kuechly and Thomas Davis, it's not quite the exact same caliber of a combination. And I mean, honestly, I can't be upset about that because those two are absolutely legendary. But one thing I will say is that I don't think that Edmunds is a bust by any means. He's still young. What is he, like 22, 23? The guy can barely drink a beer. I still think that he has a lot of time to develop. And normally when I give players time to develop, I say about 3 years. But in this case, since he was so young when he came into the league, I'm going to go on ahead and give him one more year where I think that we'll be able to see him truly get into the role of the shot caller on the defense. Hopefully with Milano being completely healthy, working on the opposite side of him, with Edmunds being healthy and his shoulder being completely fine, and then Star Lotulelei being able to eat up those additional offensive linemen so Edmunds can start to work, I have a feeling that Edmunds is absolutely about to show us exactly why the Buffalo Bills drafted him in the first round back in 2018. So yeah, Dumb Mafia, do me a favor, leave a comment. What do you think? There's a lot of fans who have always come up to me and said, yo, I think Edmunds is a bust. Leave your comment. Let me know where your thoughts are now and what you hope to see from Edmunds this season. Dumb Mafia, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another edition of the Dumb Mafia Report. And before I let you go, always remember, let's go Buffalo.